The smell in your car is very probably not yours. I want to start there because it's the part nobody thinks about until they're standing on a shoulder watching a stranger go through their glove box. Cannabis gets into fabric, upholstery, headliner, seat belts, the carpet in the footwell. It rides in on a jacket. It gets left behind by a passenger you drove home a week ago Saturday who had been outside with his friends before he got in. It comes off a coat that was hung in somebody else's hallway. And it stays. Days, sometimes weeks. So the driver who hears those 5 words at his window is very often a person who has never touched the stuff in his life. I can smell cannabis. And for years in this country, those 5 words were a skeleton key. An officer said them out loud, and the doors opened, and the trunk opened, and the evening was gone. They were said out loud precisely because saying them was the fastest way to manufacture a reason to search. And then in October of 2018, this country legalized the exact thing they were smelling, and here is what almost nobody has caught up with. Those 5 words are worth a fraction of what they used to be worth, not nothing. I'm going to be honest with you about that today because there are two situations where they still matter enormously, and you need to know both. But the bare line, on its own, standing alone, is a far thinner claim in Canada in 2026 than the person saying it is hoping you believe. So today, I'll show you exactly what that sentence is worth now, and the single question you ask back that splits it in half. Because I smell cannabis is deliberately vague, and it is vague for a reason. There are two completely different things the officer could mean by it. They lead to two completely different places in law, and only one of them is about your car at all. One question forces him to pick. And stay with me right to the end because there's a twist coming, and it's the one that actually catches innocent people. After I've spent this whole video showing you how weak that smell is on its own, I'm going to show you the thing that genuinely does hand them grounds. And it isn't a smell, it's an object. And there is a very good chance it is sitting in your car right now. You bought it legally, you're perfectly entitled to own it, and the place you put it is a provincial offense in every province in this country. That's the part nobody warns you about, and that's the part you actually need. Now, this is not an anti-police video, and I won't have it turned into one. If somebody is driving stoned on a highway tonight, I want them stopped, and I'll say so again before the end. Impairment is impairment, and I have no interest in helping anybody dodge it. I'm here for the gap, the one between a legal substance you can smell and a criminal search you didn't have to allow. I'm Brian Doyle. For 15 years, I worked inside the criminal courts in this country. The interview rooms, the cells, the prep meetings the night before trial. And I sat with a great many people whose entire ordeal started with a smell that came out of a passenger seat. This is legal education, not legal advice, and I'm not your lawyer. The charter and the criminal code are federal. The cannabis rules I'll get to at the end are provincial, and they do vary. For your own situation, talk to a lawyer where you live. Right. The foundation, because everything hangs off this. There is no general power in this country to search your car at a traffic stop. None. To go through that vehicle lawfully, an officer needs a warrant or a search connected to a lawful arrest or a genuine emergency or a specific power written into a statute or your permission. That's the list. And notice that I smell something is not on it. A smell is not a search power. A smell is a fact an officer might use to try and build one. And here's where our courts have been genuinely helpful, and it goes back further than legalization does. Long before 2018, Canadian appeal courts were already warning about this exact thing. The point they made is a simple one, and it has never been overturned. The human sense of smell is subjective. It cannot be measured, it cannot be tested afterwards, it cannot be checked by anybody, and it produces no record of any kind. There is no way ever for a judge to find out what an officer's nose did on the side of a road at 11 at night, which is precisely why the court said odor alone, without something more, doesn't get you there. And then legalization arrived and made that reasoning much stronger, not weaker. Because think about what the smell now tells an officer. Cannabis is legal for adults in this country. You are entitled to buy it, entitled to own it, entitled to carry it, entitled to have it in your vehicle within the rules. So the smell of it, standing on its own, is roughly as incriminating as the smell of beer coming out of a grocery bag. Something more. Everything in this video is about not being the something more. So here's the split, and this is the heart of it. When an officer says, I can smell cannabis, there are two entirely different things he could mean, and he almost never says which. The first is burnt. He means somebody has recently smoked in this vehicle. And if that's what he means, he is not really talking about your car at all. He's talking about your body. That's the beginning of an impaired driving investigation. And if he can build a reasonable suspicion that you have a drug in your system, he can demand you perform physical coordination tests at the roadside, or a drug screening test. That's a real power, and if it's lawfully demanded, you must do it. And refusing is a criminal offense. But notice what it isn't. Suspecting the driver is impaired is not, all by itself, a license to empty the trunk. It's a route to testing you, not to searching the vehicle. The second is fresh, raw, unburnt. He means he thinks there's cannabis physically in this car, and here is where you should slow right down, because the obvious question is the right one. So what? Possessing cannabis is legal. An adult in this country can have 30 grams of dried cannabis in public. Having it in a car is not a crime. The mere presence of a legal product in a vehicle is not an offense, and it is not evidence of one. So if that's what he means he has told you, he thinks you're in possession of something you're allowed to possess, which gets him, on its own, almost nowhere near your trunk. Two meanings, two completely different legal roads. One of them goes to a coordination test, and one of them goes basically nowhere. And the reason officers so often say just, "I smell cannabis," and stop there, is that staying vague lets the sentence borrow authority from both roads at once while committing to neither. So you make him commit. That's the whole move, and I'll give you the exact words in a minute. But first, the three ways people lose this before it starts, because the sentence won't save you if you've already done one of these. The first mistake, and it is by a mile the most common, is explaining the smell. It's the most natural thing in the world. You're innocent, the accusation is wrong, and you want to clear it up. So out it comes. "Oh, that'll be my buddy. He was smoking before he got in on the weekend." "It's not mine. I gave a guy a ride Friday." "There might be a bit of an old smell. I had some in here a while back." Every one of those is a gift, because in one helpful breath, you have just confirmed out of your own mouth that cannabis has been in this vehicle. You have taken a subjective, unrecordable, unprovable claim about a smell, and you have corroborated it for him, on camera, for free. He no longer needs his nose. He has you. Do not explain the smell. Not ever. You are not obliged to account for the interior of your own car, and there is no version of that explanation that helps you. The second mistake is consenting. "Well, if there's nothing in there, you don't mind if I take a quick look?" Said lightly. Said like it would be rude to say no. And it comes right after the smell line for a reason, because the smell line is what makes you feel you have something to prove. And here's what you need to understand. If he genuinely had grounds, he would not be asking. He'd be searching. The question is the tell. Our courts have said that for consent to actually count, you have to know what you're agreeing to and know you are free to refuse, which means he is relying on you not knowing either of those things. So if they truly have grounds, they'll search anyway, and your permission was never needed. Your no costs you absolutely nothing. And if they were leaning on your yes, your no just saved your entire evening. The third mistake is getting angry, and I understand it. Being accused of something you haven't done at the side of a road is genuinely infuriating, and the injustice of it makes people loud. But an officer who feels like he's dealing with a problem starts reaching for powers he'd otherwise never have touched. And the driver became agitated and confrontational, goes into a report, and sits there beside the smell. And now there are two things instead of one. Something more. Don't be the something more. Now, everything I'm covering here, plus the doorstep, the sidewalk, your phone, and what happens in the hours after a stop goes sideways, I've put into one short plain English guide for Canada. It's called the Know Your Rights Handbook, and it's the thing I wish somebody could hand every driver in this country before the stop instead of after it. No hard sell. If this has been useful, the link's in the description whenever you want it. Right. The sentence. "Burnt or fresh, officer? I'd rather not explain it. I don't consent to any search. Am I being detained, and what for?" Look at what each piece does. Burnt or fresh. Two words, and they do more than anything else you could possibly say. You have just asked the one question that the vague version of that accusation cannot survive, and you have asked it calmly, without an ounce of attitude. He now has to pick a road out loud, on camera. If he says burnt, you know this is about impairment, and you know exactly what's coming. If he says fresh, he has just told you he suspects you of possessing a legal product. And if he won't answer, that is its own answer, and it's on the recording. I'd rather not explain it. This is the shield. It's short, and it's polite, and it closes the door on the single most damaging thing you could do. You're not denying anything, which would be arguing. You're simply declining to narrate your own upholstery. "I don't consent to any search." Said out loud, once, clearly. That's the piece that has to be on the record no matter which road this turns out to be. Am I being detained, and what for? And that forces the whole encounter into the open. Either he's exercising a real power and he can name it in 5 words, or you're a driver with a brake light out who's free to go. Here's how it sounds when it goes right. Lights behind you. Shoulder, engine off. Interior light on, hands on top of the wheel. Evening, license, registration, and insurance. And I'll be honest with you, I can smell cannabis. Burnt or fresh, officer? A pause. There's a smell in the vehicle. I understand. I'd rather not explain it, and I don't consent to any search. Am I being detained, and what for? You seem awfully familiar with all this. I'm just trying to be clear, that's all. Everything you asked for is right there. And one of two things happens. Either he names something real immediately, because a lawful power is easy to say out loud, and then you comply completely and you challenge it later. Or the sentence goes quiet because there wasn't anything else and the stop winds down and you drive home. And now the twist I promised you. Because I've spent this entire video telling you how thin that smell is on its own, and now I have to tell you about the thing that isn't thin at all. It is not a smell, it's an object. And it's probably in your car. Every province in this country has a rule about how cannabis has to be carried in a vehicle. And the shape of it is the same everywhere, even though the exact wording differs. Cannabis in a moving vehicle must be in its original packaging, unopened, or it must be packed away somewhere that nobody in that vehicle can reach it. The trunk, a locked compartment. What is not allowed anywhere in this country is an opened bag or tin sitting in your cup holder, your door pocket, your console, or on the passenger seat. Now think about who breaks that rule. It's not the criminal. The criminal hides it. It's the ordinary law-abiding adult who drove to a legal store, bought a legal product with a debit card, got a receipt, opened it at home like a normal person, and then a week later threw the bag in the console on the way to a friend's place. Never once occurred to him that where he put it was the entire offense. And that changes everything about the conversation at your window, because now the officer isn't relying on his nose anymore. He can see it, or he saw the shape of it. And in several provinces, there is a specific statutory power that lets an officer who has reasonable grounds to believe cannabis is being carried in contravention of those rules stop and search that vehicle for it. So this is the honest bottom of the whole video. The smell alone is weak. An open container in your cup holder is not weak at all. It is the something more, sitting in plain view, put there by you. So do this, tonight, before you ever need any of it. Anything cannabis goes in the trunk. Sealed if you can, out of reach without question. Not the console, not the glove box, not the door pocket, not a jacket on the passenger seat. And if you have passengers, that goes for what they're carrying too, because it's your vehicle. That one habit does more to protect you than every sentence in this video put together. It removes the only thing on that shoulder that a smell could ever have led to. And the other honest thing, and I'd rather you trusted me than liked me. If you're impaired, don't drive. This country has blood THC limits and they're real, and a drug-impaired charge is every bit as serious as an alcohol one. Cannabis affects reaction time and it hangs around a good deal longer than people assume. Nothing in this video is about beating a test you ought to fail. It's about not losing an evening, a search, and a record over a smell in a seat that came from somebody else's jacket. And if it does go further than talk, if they search anyway, or if you're told you're being detained or arrested, then everything I've said stops mattering and one sentence replaces all of it. You do not physically resist. Not for 1 second, not ever, no matter how wrong it is. You say clearly once, I do not consent to this search. And then, if you're arrested or detained, I want to speak to a lawyer. Say it immediately, say it out loud. Under the Charter, the moment you're detained or arrested, you have the right to be told why, and the right to talk to a lawyer without delay. Duty counsel is free in every province at any hour of the night. And then nothing else about the case. Not on the shoulder, not in the cruiser, not in the hallway. Because you never win an unlawful search at the roadside. Nobody ever has. You win it afterwards, in a room with a judge who can look at what that officer said his grounds were, and decide whether a smell was ever enough. And the only thing you can do on that shoulder is stay calm enough to make sure there's a clean record for that judge to look at. So let's bring it home. There's no general power to search your car at a traffic stop, and a smell is not a search power, it's an attempt to build one. The nose is subjective, it leaves no record, and our courts said long before legalization that odor on its own without something more doesn't get there. And then this country made the thing legal, which made that reasoning stronger. So you ask which one it is, burnt or fresh, 2 words, because burnt is about your body and fresh is about a legal product, and neither one standing alone opens your trunk. You never explain the smell, you never consent, you never get loud, because all 3 of those are you volunteering to be the something more. Burnt or fresh, officer, I'd rather not explain it. I don't consent to any search. Am I being detained, and what for? And then go and move whatever's in your console into your trunk tonight, because that is the thing that actually costs people. And it's the one part of all this that's entirely in your hands. If this helped you, Have a look at the pinned comment where I've written that sentence out so it's in your pocket long before you need it. And send it to one person you care about who drives. Especially anyone who's ever given a lift to somebody's kid on a Saturday night because the smell in their car isn't theirs either, and they have no idea it's sitting in their upholstery waiting for a tail light to go out. Subscribe because every week I take one more of these apart in plain English. I'm Brian Doyle. A smell is not a search. I'll see you in the next one.